what is hypnosis, and why do some people talk about mind control at the same time? Is it related, the two topics?
I love these kinds of questions.
Ah,
So, hypnosis, mind control.
I mean, it's definitely
Here's
a
the
topic
rub.
to talk about. Yeah.
It is. It's like, how do you frame it so that people don't freak out too much? So, lots of stuff is hypnosis. The media is hypnosis. TV is hypnosis. Movies are hypnosis. Anytime that outside information or even inside information, like we are always running on self-hypnosis, all that negative self-talk that people talk about,
Mhm.
that's negative self-hypnosis. So hypnosis is information that happens to our minds when we are typically in a tranced out or zoned out state. That's why I say all those things are forms of hypnosis. Have you ever been to Vegas?
Yes.
So when you're in Vegas and you're in the casino, have you noticed how it's like super loud? There's tons of lights, and even the carpeting, when you look down at the carpeting, there's
Mhm.
pattern in the carpeting. There's no place to chill because what they're doing is they're overloading you so that you want to go to the machine and pull the lever over and over and over again, because that puts you into a comfortable trance state. And it's
Wow.
very relaxing. Trance is very, very relaxing. That's why we like to go to the movies. We like to watch TV. We like to drive long distance on the road and get into road zone. So once we're in that trance state, like when we're driving,
Hmm.
the billboards exist for a reason. The billboards are actually a form of hypnosis. You're driving along, you're in a zone, and these billboards are, even if you don't consciously recognize them, the information's going into your subconscious mind. And then you're like, oh, I want some McDonald's French fries.
Next thing you know, you're having a dream about McDonald's, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
So
wow.
hypnosis, like when you go to hypnotherapy,
Hmm.
all they're really doing is utilizing what's happening naturally, because this does happen naturally, that the last about hour before we go to bed at night, we're in a state of natural trance, natural hypnosis. So what you do in that last, especially half hour before you go to bed,
Hmm.
will really change the arc of your life. Like if you're putting in positive information, if you're reading self-help stuff or stuff that you find inspirational at night, that is going to do something very different in your whole physiology than watching, like, if it bleeds, it leads news stories.
So is that part of the reason they tell you like shut off the phone, shut off the TV? Because
Yes, part of that's blue light also,
okay.
but yes, it is bad programming.
What about like now on the iPhone, they got the whole like turn off the blue light thing feature, and I use it and it's like, oh, now I'm fine, right?
You are fine, but I would still pay very much attention to what you're putting into your mind, especially that last hour to half hour before you go to bed. That is the time to read and do things that you find inspiring. That will make your life better.
Chel Hamilton, everybody. Make sure to check her out. Her podcast. You might have heard of it. You just might have. Meditation Minis. That's meditationminis.com. And honestly, you can just type in meditation minis on Google and you'll get the iTunes, the Yelp, not the Yelp, the Spotify. I'm so stuck up on I'm all about Yelp for my business. So I always get up on my mind. The iTunes, the Spotify, the Google Play. You can't miss it. It's got over 16 million downloads now. It's one of those things where you hear Chel and you're like, wow, I've heard this voice somewhere. Where has this calming, relaxing voice been my whole life? But it's definitely a pleasure to have you on. Before you kind of made the transition, though, I know you still use hypnosis, right? For sure, but you kind of took it to another level. When did you make this transition? Like when did you like say, that's it. Like I want to do something on my own. I want to create something.
Yeah, well, I would say that even as a hypnotherapist, I was doing it on my own and creating it on my
Yeah.
own because I was working for myself. Um, I had a brick and mortar. I got clients. Um, I kind of grew up with two parents who tended to work for themselves. So I think that also made me not as scared to branch out on my own. But when I first got started as a hypnotherapist, I had like a regular job. And then I also was getting clients on the side and I'd done the numbers, like how many clients do I need to have in order to segue?
God. Yeah, that's a very popular way of doing it, right? Because you could still leverage your current job to get you by until you boom or they're
Well,
on your
it's really hard to create something when you're in fear, and if you don't know how you're going to pay rent or eat,
own.
fear can cause a lot of energy, but it's not sustainable energy for actually growing a business. Like fear can help you launch off the starting point, but fear is not going to feed you enough good stuff to keep it going for 18 months.
Hmm. That's an interesting way to look at it. It's almost like you need to have something, right? You got to be lit, like your, a fire lit underneath you to sort of keep you going. Did you know like this is what you were going to do though? Like, was this always a calling for you since the beginning of time?
Since the beginning, no, 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 no. I was like that weird kid who checked out as many books as they would allow at the library, when you're like 8 years old.
You were one of those.
Yeah,
There was always one of those.
I was one of those. It was always like half of them were Nancy Drew and Hardy Boys mysteries. I loved a good
Oh,
mystery. Yeah.
those I always envied people that did the Hardy Boys ones. I don't know why. I couldn't do it. I was always like, why are these so popular? And they're always rented out, and I don't know what it was. But it sounds like, all right, there was a point when you had a regular brick and mortar and a location, and
Oh
now it's
yeah.
the polar opposite. Tell us.
Now it is. Right now I'm in Mexico, and it's my son just turned 18 a couple months ago, and he went off to stay with family in California, and our lease was up. So I decided that I was going to just put some stuff in a bag and the rest of the stuff in storage and take off. And it's actually cheaper for me to be in Mexico this month than it would have been for me to stay in Columbus and, have rent and all of that stuff.
And by paying Airbnb instead, right? Or are you
Yeah.
like, or
Yeah, I'm in an Airbnb right now.
okay.
And then this weekend, I'm going to go stay at a hostel. I'm a huge fan of hostels, especially when you solo travel, because it gives you other people to hang out with, to go to dinner with, to go out, to go exploring with. Solo travel when you're all by yourself, it can get lonely. And solo travel as a female, there's always like, is this safe? Am I okay?
Oh yeah, I
Yeah,
could
so
see
I'm
that.
looking forward to going to the hostel this weekend and hanging out with some people and doing some things. Right now I'm in work mode though. So the Airbnb tends to be like get shit done mode. And then the hostel is, okay, now we're gonna
Yeah,
actually
because
be a tourist.
yeah, because I was gonna say when I'm in a hostel, I feel like there's always something going on, and you can't even like go to your room because you might have like three, four other people in there, and there's always just so many. There's a lot of times it's good vibes too, and you're like, oh man,
Yeah.
what's there to do? What's there to do?
Yeah.
Um,
So I like to mix it up and do both and just plan my trip that way. I did the
so
same thing. I went to Puerto Rico for a month this past winter, and I did the same thing where
did
I stayed at both.
did you stay at a hostel in San Juan?
I did. I stayed at Mango Mansion. I highly recommend Mango Mansion. It is
Oh,
a
Mansion.
great group of people.
Mango Mansion. I'm blanking right now on which one I stayed. I stayed like in the very middle of the town. It was it's but no, that was one of the greatest things I ever did in Puerto Rico. Such a fun time. But
Yeah, Mango Mansion's right around the corner from La Placita.
Pasita. I don't know. I gotta look into it after the call. I kind of
Okay.
forgot which one. But are you spreading your message? I think this is a great way, I'm assuming, right, for you, because what you're doing is such like in this day and age, when you do something, especially with the podcast and how awesome you're doing, it's worldwide. So I take
Yeah.
it, you're definitely spreading the message. Are you doing like some meditation, I don't know, slash yoga days or something out there?
No, not yet. But if somebody wants to invite me, I'm totally down for that.
That's because I mean that sounds like like something I totally would be on, right? Like going out here and then like hosting your own little meditational thing. I don't know, everywhere you go. Cause I mean, you got the opportunity to go anywhere you want right now, right? So nothing's really, is anything holding you back? Because a lot of people have this fear of not being able to do this solo traveling. A lot of people envy this.
I mean, there's always, I do get some social anxiety. Like the reason why I do my show is because I used to have panic attacks. I had generalized anxiety. I had depression. And I was able to overcome all of that without medication. But that said, I still have a little social anxiety. There's still moments where I'm like, I don't know, maybe I should just not do anything. It's a process. So yeah, I mean, there are times when I'm traveling, I'm like, is this really a good idea? Maybe I should just go home. But the truth is right now, I don't actually have a home. So if I were to go home, I'd be staying with friends and family anyway.
No, I mean, solo traveling was one of the greatest things I ever did. And I like look back at that moment always. I'm like, I wish I did it longer. I wish I did it, a little more, but who knows? We'll see what
Yeah,
happens.
and I don't think you're ever too young or too old. The first time I left the country, I was 16. I did a high school foreign exchange program. Now that was a little different because they set me up with a family, but believe me, I was running all around Istanbul, Turkey, like a crazy person, going places I'm sure I should not have been going.
Yeah, glad you went then, not now, because now it's like
Oh
you
yeah,
shouldn't even
no,
be going there anymore at the moment.
no, the fundamentalists have taken over, and well, we won't get into politics,
Yeah,
but
no.
but it's also never too late. I mean, my son just turned 18, so obviously that makes me of a certain age, and who cares? Just go. Doesn't matter.
And that's kind of one of the reasons why we connected as well. Like you shared kind of what you went through, and I was like, wow, this is exactly what I've been battling, the depression, the anxiety, the crazy panic attacks. And even though I feel like I've overcome it and I do all these things, to prove to myself, like doing a podcast and speaking in front of people and running a business, I still, get it. It still comes and goes in
Yeah.
waves. Uh, what kind of tips do you have? Like I know you have a million tips, and your procedure is over time, but if you could like give one big tip, to the audience to listen.
Yeah. So there's a 3-step process that I teach people. I call rewire that. And what you do is first, you have to cancel out the negative. So whenever we have something that scares us or makes us feel bad, we're typically making some sort of picture in that moment. And if you're not aware that you're making the picture, then the first step for you is actually become aware of what's going on in your mind when you're having the feeling. For full-blown panic, because it's kind of that Pavlovian, the bell rings, we salivate, we don't actually notice the bell anymore, we're just going straight to the feeling. You may have to rewind it a little bit, like in hindsight. But for non-panic attack situations, you can start to become very aware. And once you become aware, then you'll be able to use the same steps when you're in a panic attack. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I mean, to an extent, because like for me, you get in the panic attack and you get like that light, the tunnel vision right away,
Yes.
right? Like you were just saying, you get straight to the point.
Yes.
Like, I guess how to retract that quick enough before like making a fool of yourself, I guess.
So the first thing is to use what I'm about to teach you on everything else and get strong enough in it that once you start to use it when you have the panic attacks, you've got some muscle. It's like you're going to the gym and you're working out before you go to try to lift the really heavy object at the competition. So what you do is first you cancel, cancel, cancel. I don't know why it has to be 3 times, but your brain just loves threes. It just loves threes.
The more the better, right?
Yeah. So cancel, 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 not stop, not bad. We're not judging it. We're just canceling it out. Our brain's job is to think, and sometimes it thinks crazy thoughts. And when it thinks crazy thoughts that we have a tendency to be scared of, then our body reacts. If I was scared of spiders and you were describing to me the big spider on the wall behind me, there's a part of me that's like,
That's good. You just made me think of a new podcast bit I could do.
So you cancel the picture that's making you feel the way that you're feeling. And then you reframe it by thinking of 3 physical things in your control that in a similar situation you could do instead. So I'm going to give you an example. Public speaking anxiety. The fear is maybe you're going to be in front of people. Well, you had it. What were the 3, like, what was the picture that you would make when you would freak yourself out?
Oh man, I right away just start thinking that I'm gonna choke up and forget what I'm gonna say. That's the number one thing. Forget what I'm gonna say.
Perfect. Choke up, forget what I'm going to say.
And everybody's looking at me that I'm gonna do something stupid.
I'm going to do something stupid. Okay, excellent. So the first thing you'd do is you'd cancel, cancel, cancel. And if you're a picture person, you're making a picture. So I would even put X's on the picture. Some people aren't picture people. They're more like they run tapes and they have feelings. So for those, they just say cancel, 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 and think about kind of getting the feelings out. So the next thing you would do is you would identify 3 physical little things that you could do in front of an audience while speaking that would show you that you're being calm and confident. What are 3 little things?
I guess for me one that I do is I'll kind of walk around a little bit, like to show that I'm like an authority, I guess, in what I'm doing. Like I'm comfortable with walking and talking still. And like, yeah.
Okay. So you see yourself walking, you're moving.
Yeah. Anytime I get active, it helps me out.
So you move. Name something else little that's physically in your control in that situation. Would you smile maybe?
Maybe. Yeah. Being loud enough.
Okay. Speaking loudly, moving. What else? One more.
Oh, this is good. This is good. I'm blanking. Making eye contact.
Making eye contact. Okay, those are great. So for everybody, it's going to be different. And what you would do then is you would cancel out the negative and you take a deep breath and you picture yourself doing those 3 things that you know are going to give you a better result in that situation. That's it. Now, I said it's a 3-step process. And the reason why is because sometimes we think of things from the past. We can't change the past. So thinking of 3 things we're going to do to change the past doesn't work. Or sometimes, like with the panic attack, we go so far, so fast into the feelings, we just can't even like think of 3 things that we could do. That's when step 3 comes in. So you would still cancel, cancel, cancel. And then you take a deep breath and you'd start running a monologue of what's actually happening in this present, typically pretty boring moment. Like, I'm just sitting here, I'm drinking my coffee, I'm talking to Moreau, I'm taking some deep breaths, I'm gonna wiggle my shoulders. And you get into the present moment by running that monologue. So that's a 3-step process. Cancel, cancel, cancel. Picture 3 small physical things in your control in that situation that would give you a more positive result. And if you're too far gone emotionally or it's something in the past that you can't control, you cancel, 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 and then you run the monologue until your amygdala, which is where the fear is, calms down. The moment you start running the monologue, you're actually forcing your brain to go to your prefrontal cortex. This is why, another reason why when people get into fear, they say, name the feelings. Once you bring words into the scenario, you're getting out of that primitive part of your mind and you're getting into the logical part of your mind.
And if you keep practicing these like steps, these 3 things, for example, they're naturally you're going to have them like in the back of your mind, right? So when
you're hypnotizing yourself, literally, you're positively hypnotizing yourself.
Wow.
You're taking the same negative process, just like a hypnotherapist would do, but you're doing it on yourself. I mean, not just like they would, but do some other things. But yeah, you're taking back control of your brain.
And so you realize this moment and you're like, kind of take that breath and let's walk a little bit. Let's speak up. Let's make someone maybe laugh or smile. Like
Exactly. Now there's one other thing, since you brought up public speaking, that people often make a mistake of. They're more worried about what other people are thinking about them. Like, oh, I'm killing it. They're loving me. I'm amazing. They think this is the best thing ever. And I would say that we can't control what other people think about us. And the more that we try to control what other people think or feel about us, usually the worse it gets. So in those situations, I always recommend that you just focus on the things you can do, which would be to deliver the information. That's it.
No, that's good. And yeah, I mean, it's something I think that just takes time, right? At the end of the day.
Yeah, it takes some time, but once you take back control of the process, it takes way less time.
Because eventually I plan on speaking in front of thousands, and it's like just thinking about it. I guess for me, I'm one of those people where I like to knock it out and do it right away. It's the build up that kills me. So like anytime there was ever a speech or anything to do, I would always go first. If I go, I'm going ziplining for the first time or something like that, I want to go first. I don't want to like think about it. It's the build up that kills me. That I guess that's kind of one thing.
Well, that's where step 3 would really be helpful, because you're getting out of that future forecasting and you're just you're like, okay, when I get there, I'll get there. Right now, I'm drinking my coffee and I'm talking to Chel.
Oh man. And the listeners could definitely find more of this on your podcast, Meditation Minis.
For sure. My podcast is what I call Hypnosis Light. It is not, full on hypnosis, but because you're going from one state to another in these short guided meditations, technically, I think anything that's a guided meditation is a form of hypnosis. But like I said, I think television and movies, if you're crying at a movie, you're entranced.
It's true. Yeah. You forget about everything else that's happening. You're so involved. That's all you're thinking about. I mean, I totally see it.
If you walk into the end of a movie like where people are crying and you just see the end, you'd be like, what is going on here? The acting is so bad. I don't understand why but they're entranced. So the podcast is short guided meditations. I tend to focus on anxiety, stress, confidence. I'm getting a little more into productivity and focus, which I'm really excited about because I have ADD, so that makes sense that I would focus in on that. I'm sure others do. And it changes your state from, something that you're not enjoying to hopefully something that you feel a little better about by the time you're done with the 10 minutes.
Exactly. And it's only 10 minutes, like honestly, and even less, like, I mean, if you do the whole thing, but it's not that much of your time. And this is like what so many people talk about that are like game changers to their lives and to like being as successful as they are, these simple 10 minutes. And the nice thing about podcasts, the platform, is that all these can be listened to whenever. It's not like you have to wait for the live episode, the live showing, right? We can go back in time and listen to the 300 episode, 200 plus episodes whenever. And that's the beauty of it.
It is beautiful. Although I tend to cut my feed around 75 to 100 because I find that people get too overwhelmed.
So what do you mean?
I only allow about 75 to 100 past episodes in my podcast feed because I find that it becomes overwhelming for people to try to find something. I've just recently begun putting them all onto a site where people will be able to search for exactly what they want. That'll be less overwhelming and favorite them.
Is that meditationminis.com or?
So meditationminis.com is the podcast, and I'm working on something called M Minis, which is kind of a hybrid app membership site. It'll be out soon.
Oh, okay.
And that'll have everything, because I found that people were just like, I don't remember that episode, and not all podcast catchers let you favorite things, and they're just not that searchable. So I created my own solution, and it always takes 10 times longer than you think it's going to take.
It does, just like anything else. And what would you tell to someone like me and someone that's going through what I went through a few years ago? Sitting there in that cubicle and debating like whether this life is for them. Not creating a podcast it's anybody could probably create a podcast, but to actually pass the 5 episode mark and to keep it going and to be a successful podcast like yours has been, like there's only a few people that can do that. So what would you recommend to someone that's either looking into starting a podcast or just kicking their 9-to-5 life?
Yeah, so a couple of things. I would say that, and I'm certainly guilty of this as well, we have a tendency to undervalue the things in life that we find easy for us to do. And everybody's got things that people come to them for. Um, so the first thing to do would be to find those things and just stop undervaluing the fact that you're really good at something and it's easy for you. We've got this belief that if it's worth it, it's got to be hard. But the truth of the matter is that we all have gifts, and those gifts seem easy. And do it on the side. There's no reason why you have to burn. I hate the grind. I hate the grind.
Really?
I have ground and ground. It does not work in the long term. Can it work if you're just doing it for a week? Yeah, it can work. That's a great way to get shit done.
Yeah, I get burnt out all the time.
Yeah. So I am not a fan of the grind. I'm not a fan of burning bridges. I'm a fan of stoking fires.
So do you kind of just pace yourself?
I think it's a matter of sometimes you have to block.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes you have to spend, for me at least, with the way my brain works, because I hyper focus because of the ADD. I do better if I spend 3 days just focused all in on something. So my first step with work was to get to the point where I could do 4 days working for somebody else and then have the other days to work for me. And then 3 days working for somebody else. And then I was able to transition out of it completely, so that I could block my time. For me, going home at night after working for somebody else and trying to do my thing, I used up a lot of energy working for somebody else. So blocking time, freeing up that extra day a week, really changed a lot for me.
And kind of just backtracking here,
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering what is the best way to listen to your podcast? I know like probably people think this. I know you kind of say, you mentioned a few things, but what's like your number one recommendation for taking it in?
You mean like which platform to use?
Like should I be laying down? Should I go on the beach?
Yeah,
Do I need to go somewhere to listen to it? Can I just do it in my
no.
bed? What's the best way?
I would say sitting up, actually not in the bed, because when we get relaxed in bed, we have a tendency to fall asleep. And they aren't created to fall asleep to. They're created to help you switch the way that your brain thinks about things so that you can be calmer and clearer and create more of what you want to create in the world. So I'd say a pair of earbuds. I actually mix them on earbuds because I figure that's how people listen the most.
Oh, because one comes when things kind of like travel, like stereo, right?
Sometimes I do some stereo stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And just sit back, close your eyes, and have a listen.
So what you're trying to say is laying down is not going to be the best way to create world-changing ideas.
I mean, I'm not going to say that that doesn't work for you.
No, I
But
mean, I don't.
most people sitting up so that you don't fall asleep is a better idea, unless you're
What
listening to
about
something
standing?
longer. You can stand. I've even created some shows that you can keep your eyes open. And I have people do them with their eyes open. But don't do it when you're driving.
Yeah,
Please don't do
no,
it when you're driving.
no, yeah, that's like one of the main things, right? Don't ever do it while driving.
No, please don't.
You
I've
get,
had people say, oh, no, I was really stressed out. And, I was just going to listen to your voice just to kind of chill for a moment. But once you start listening to my voice and you get used to getting that relaxed while listening to it, and when you hear it, it has a tendency, like the little bell, to get you super relaxed. And they're like, oh my God, I almost drove off the road.
yeah. All right. Well, now on to our listeners' favorite segment of the show.
Welcome to the round with no name because they're all taken.
Let's do it.
I hope you're ready for some curveballs.
Okay.
I don't know if you looked at already anything prior, if you didn't, but either way, my producer, Steve Wiley, you might have heard about him, you might have not. He lurks the hallways here at my little studio in my house. And very on me about timing. He wants to make sure he's a stickler that these things get answered quickly. So you have
Okay.
5 seconds, so you don't think too much.
Okay, let's go.
Otherwise, he comes out and gives me a hard time, and I don't want to deal with him. What is deep breaths, right? 3 of them. 3 of them. What is your favorite book?
The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz.
Favorite movie?
Ooh, Moulin Rouge.
You're stranded on an island. What is the one item you want with you? Not a person.
A hammock.
Ha! Love it. Is entrepreneurism a fad?
Heck no, it's what we were meant to be. We were created to be creators. So entrepreneurism is just a form of self-creation.
I'm going to go back to that one. But is voice the future, like specifically podcasts?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think that voice is a void that will always be available because there's a certain connection and intimacy, right? Podcasting kind of is taking us back to the olden days of radio. And it's beautiful.
You might be a politician one day because the way you answered that question, I swear. You made me think of like other questions. And all right. How do you, since you already are, how do you drink your coffee?
I drink it black.
All right. You know what they say, right?
No. What do they say?
According to a study from the HuffPost, not me, it wasn't me. We show psychotic tendencies if we're avid black coffee drinkers.
Really? Well, I just find that
I drink it too, though, so it's okay.
I drink it black because I don't want to have the extra sugar. It's taken a long time to get to black, and milk it
kills it.
It makes a funny taste on the back of my tongue that I just don't enjoy.
Coffee is meant to be coffee, right? Good, dark, and just the way it is.
Yeah, so and if I'm a little crazy, so be it.
No, I think we all need a little bit of crazy, and not saying you are, but I know I am.
No, a little crazy is good. A little crazy means that you're unwilling to live in the status quo.
Good. Okay. So you put yourself out there. Now I don't have to be the one to blame for it. Good.
That's right.
What is the one item you consume every day or you like wear it on you, but you need it every single day? It makes you. Could be a food item.
My glasses. I can't see without them, so it definitely makes me.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I swear. I got to start telling people no more glasses, no glass answers. I swear, you are going to be a politician one day. These answers, killing.
No, don't wish that on me. I'd rather change the world from the side than to be out front.
Well, maybe, I don't know, maybe the two can combine, right? And you could be like a game changer. But
that would be awesome.
Say you had an unlimited amount of money right now and you can do anything, start up any business you wanted to, not your own. What would it be?
If I had all the money that I needed and I could start a business, I would start a business that, there's so many things pulling at me right now. I did not expect this question.
Yes. You got a boss exclusive curveball here. Yes.
I would start something that helps people all over the world get out of struggle and into thriving. So one of the organizations I'm really keen on is Kiva organization. Have you heard about them? They give microloans to people all over the world. So I could give $200 to somebody who is in Kenya and she needs a sewing machine so that she can create things to help her family survive. I would do work like that. I would go and just like give money to people like that, microloans. That's what I do. I wouldn't even need to start my own business. I would just give that money to other people who are already doing good work.
So more traveling too.
Yeah.
Awesome. Love it. And last but not least, how serious would you take me if I walked into a meeting with you right now and I had on socks and sandals?
I would think that you were probably pretty cool to walk into a meeting like that, and
Yes.
more of a force to be
Yes.
reckoned with than the dude in the suit.
Yes. Greatest answer, hands down. Boom. Love it. Well, you survived. I survived. Steve Wiley did not come out. I did not have to see him. So right now.
Yay, we win.
Yes. Yes, we do. High five, team. Yes. Yes. All right. Well, last one I wanted to elaborate on was entrepreneurism being a fad. That's kind of one that you dove into. Can you elaborate?
Sure. So we're this is going to go a little religious. I don't mean it to, but ever since I was a kid, I've been very obsessed about why people believe what they believe and why people do the things that they do. And I think that people are capable of anything given the right set of circumstances for that person. It's the circumstances, the right set, that gets, thank goodness we don't all have the sets of circumstances that cause us to do certain bad things.
Yeah.
So I got obsessed last year with this idea of being made in God's image, which is a very Christian belief structure, but we live, well, most of the time in America. And so that's the belief structure that we're around. And I kept thinking about it. I'm like, well, what makes us different? Well, I've never seen a dolphin, as smart as dolphins seem to be, and I love dolphins. I've never seen a dolphin make a dry suit so that they can go explore, the middle of the United States. I've never seen this happen.
You implanted a wild image in my mind right now, and I love it.
It's like the dolphins at the Grand Canyon. I've never seen dolphins in dry suits at the Grand Canyon.
Not yet.
No, not yet. So we have something in us that drives us to explore and create. It's not that we have language, because groundhogs have language. Groundhogs make up new words for things and can communicate that word to their entire system. So, and it's not tools, because we know that other animals use and create tools all the time. So what is it? We are driven to create and to explore. This is the thing that makes us different than any other thing that we know of on the planet. So entrepreneurs are driven to create and explore. Entrepreneurism is just our natural tendency. And before the Industrial Revolution, we had people they did crafts. You'd go to the chair maker to get your chair made. That is also a form of entrepreneurism. They're doing their thing. So yes, I don't think it's a fad. I think it's our true nature, because we are explorer creators.
I like that. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Okay.
Nothing else I could really say to top that. Well, Chel Hamilton of Meditation Minis podcast. Make sure to check her out. meditationminis.com. iTunes, Google, Spotify, you name it. Just type in Meditation Minis, Chel Hamilton. That's CHEL Hamilton. And you'll be sure to find all her amazing content, and hopefully she can zen you out and, get you through today and doing greater, better things. But yeah, it's been a pleasure having you on the Boss to Boss podcast. The mic is all yours if you want to close it out with any thoughts. Otherwise, it's been a pleasure.
No, I thank you so much for having me on. And it has definitely been a bright spot in my week. So I am grateful to you for that.
Yeah, no, it's still early in the week. It's early enough in the morning. So I'm glad that hopefully you didn't need too much coffee, that, I got you going just like this by talking.
Absolutely.
That is all for this episode of Boss to Boss. Your next step is to visit bosstoboss.com, where you will find proven techniques followed by professionals to help you make that next step. Again, that is boss2boss.com. And remember, the time is now.